There has never been a better time to get into handheld gaming, but with so many options on the market right now, how on earth can you be confident that you are getting the best handheld for you? Well, in today's video, I'm going to help guide you to the best handheld for your budget. But please be aware that there are a few handhelds on this list that I have not owned yet, and I will clarify when those do come up. Also, I added in some suggested accessories that will be linked in the description with each handheld. So let's kick off the list with the budget handhelds. The handhelds in this category are typically found for around $400 or below. So the first handheld on our list is not a traditional handheld, but something that I think a lot of PlayStation gamers would be interested in, since it's the closest thing we've gotten to a new PSP since the PS Vita, the PlayStation Portal. I only recommend the PlayStation Portal for PlayStation gamers as it is literally useless without a PS5 to connect it to. I also wouldn't recommend this to anyone who doesn't have a strong and consistent Wi-Fi signal in their home. I reviewed the Portal and I personally couldn't find a reason for me to justify getting one, other than possibly pure convenience. But even then, it's still a little pricey at $200, and you can find the backbone phone attachment for less than half the price on sale, which does everything the Portal does, minus the fact that it has a big screen, adaptive triggers from the DualSense, and its own battery. Speaking of PlayStation, have you ever wanted to have a conversation with Kratos, the God of War himself? Well, today's sponsor, Poly AI, you actually can. Poly AI is an app that allows you to unleash your creativity and create characters with artificial intelligence that you can actually have real conversations with. It's actually super easy to set up too. All you have to do is get Poly AI on the App Store or Google Play Store, pick a character type, choose an avatar, or generate one with AI, name it, give it a gender, give it an intro and a greeting, and fill in all the attributes that you want your version of your character to have. For example, I made a version of Kratos who doesn't appreciate the fact that I don't enjoy his games.
Do not know everything, boy.
And he is, in short, not very happy with me.
Zeus! Is this how you face me, coward? I am through doing the bidding of the gods!
Jesus Christ.
But seriously, go give Poly AI a try and let your creativity run wild. Poly AI is available on the App Store, Google Play Store, and even on Google Chrome. Make sure to use code KC1020 to unlock Plus. Now, back to the video. The second handheld on our list is one that most people already know about. That is the Nintendo Switch. However, now the Nintendo Switch comes in 3 SKUs. The Switch Lite, which is $200 and is great for kids. However, it can't be hooked up to a TV. And then there's the Switch LCD model, which can be played portably and connected to a TV for $299. And lastly, there's the Switch OLED, which is the premium Switch experience, with the main difference being the bigger OLED screen, but it is only worth the extra cost if you play in portable mode. This is typically found for around $349. You can find bundles on all of these and possibly sales during the holiday season. But to be honest, getting a Nintendo Switch right now is kind of tricky because the Switch 2 actually has already been announced by Nintendo technically, but it has yet to be revealed at the time of this video. However, it's still a fantastic handheld with a deep library of games that are modern classics. Next up is the Steam Deck LCD model, which is typically found for around $399 for the 256GB version. The Steam Deck is a great device. I currently own the OLED model, which I will talk about later as it's a bit more expensive, but the Steam Deck LCD is, in my opinion, the best first gaming PC experience for someone coming from a console. It teeters on being a console and a PC at the same time, and it's also powerful enough to run the latest games and more. You can also do PlayStation streaming on it, just like the PS Portal, and even emulate old Nintendo games and new ones, but let's not get our video copyright stricken by Nintendo. So moving on. However, the screen leaves a lot to be desired as it's only 800p and 60Hz, but it is serviceable on a handheld. The Steam Deck also is not capable of running the latest Call of Duty games and Xbox Game Pass, so if you or the person you were buying this for plays those games, avoid the Steam Deck at all costs, but overall I do recommend the Steam Deck to most people on a budget. Next up, we have the ROG Ally Z1. The ROG Ally Z1 is the cheaper and weaker version of the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme. It is, however, the cheapest Windows handheld available at retail currently. I have not owned this version, but it is identical to the more expensive version of the ROG Ally in every way, minus its significantly weaker processor. So stay tuned for when I talk about the more expensive version for more details on it. But it will run indie games, some older games, and emulators just fine. Okay, so now we've hit the mid-range options, which you can typically find for around $400 to $599 USD. However, prices may vary depending on seasonality and where you live. First up, we got the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme, which is the bigger brother of the Z1 that we just discussed. The The ROG Ally Z1 Extreme is one of the most compelling handhelds on this list. This handheld is the definition of bang for buck. It has enthusiast tier power but in mid-range pricing. However, there is a reason for this. The ROG Ally Z1 Extreme may be powerful, but it lacks decent battery life and has a notorious flaw in its SD card slot reader that often causes it to fail. The joysticks are also very loose and imprecise and will eventually drift, just like the Joy-Cons on the Nintendo Switch. It also does not include a case, so you will likely be buying a case and probably a battery pack too. However, I really do like the Ally Z1 Extreme despite its flaws, and find myself playing it more often than I'd like to admit. Both it and the cheaper model have a 1080p 120Hz VRR display, and with the Z1 Extreme, you can really take advantage of it. This is a great option if you want top tier power but are on a mid-range budget. Next up, we have the Steam Deck OLED model. The Steam Deck OLED is actually one of my favorite handhelds on this list. It has the same chip as the Steam Deck LCD, except it's a bit more power efficient, which improves the battery life. They also added in a bigger battery and updated speakers, but the real star of the show is obviously its OLED display. It reaches a peak brightness of 1000 nits and is HDR capable. The display is also 90 Hz, so it will look extra smooth and easy to run games and indie titles. However, the screen is still 800p and it lacks variable refresh rate, so you will still need to lock the frame rate, and it is still a bit underpowered in comparison to other options on this list and in its price range. And now finally our first non-AMD entry on this list. The MSI Claw A1M Ultra 5 135H. Yes, good luck remembering that name. Similar to the ROG Ally Z1 Non-Extreme, this is the cheaper version of the MSI Claw A1M. I have never owned this model, however, I did own the more expensive version, so stay tuned to hear more about this device. However, it has also been widely discussed that the chipsets between the two different variants of the MSI Claw A1M are actually very close in performance, surprisingly. So now we've hit the top shelf tier of handhelds. This is the enthusiast tier, which ranges from $699 all the way up to $999. These are the most feature-rich and most powerful of all the handhelds, so if you were looking for the best of the best despite the price tag, look no further. So let's start with the MSI Claw A1M Ultra 7 155H. Once again, good luck remembering that name. The MSI Claw A1M, when I first reviewed it this year, was in a really rough state, but I was optimistic for its future. And lo and behold, I was right to be. The Claw has had a full slate of updates, and it is now somewhat of a compelling option in the enthusiast tier. Its build quality is of the highest on this list, and it uses the same 1080p 120Hz VRR screen as the ROG Ally. The joysticks are also Hall effect, which means they will never suffer from Joy-Con drift like the Nintendo Switch and the ROG Ally. The cooling system is also very quiet, and the MSI Claw easily has the coolest aesthetic of all the handhelds on this list, at least in my opinion. It also has decent battery life and makes use of artificial intelligence. However, it uses an Intel APU, which is still not as good as the AMD options on this list, but it is more respectable now than it was at launch. Next up is the Lenovo Legion Go. The Legion Go is listed as an enthusiast tier handheld, however, it can be found sometimes in the mid-range price point as well, at least for the 512GB version of it. But the Legion Go has some very unique features that could be big selling points for a lot of you. The Legion Go has an 8.8-inch 1600p display, which is the highest res and highest refresh rate of any display on this list, and it also has the same chipset as the ROG Ally inside of it. But it actually does a bit more than the ROG Ally, as it has two USB-C ports, which one can be used for charging and the other for HDMI out. It has detachable controllers and a kickstand, so you can sit back comfortably while using the big 8.8-inch display. It also makes use of Hall effect joysticks, a trackpad, and a scroll wheel, which I find to be very useful. The Legion Go also has a vertical mouse hybrid controller mode called FPS mode, which is neat until you try it once and never again. However, the device itself is a bit heavy and the shape of it is a bit uncomfortable to hold at times. The battery life is also a bit mediocre, and the Z1 Extreme chipset really isn't up to the task of 1600p gaming, but it does come with a really nice hardshell case. And last, but certainly not least, is the ASUS ROG Ally X. The ROG Ally X is currently the best of the best, and it is priced as such with a price tag of $799 for the 1TB model. The ROG Ally X does everything the regular ROG Ally Z1 Extreme does, except more refined. Its biggest selling feature, in my opinion, is its battery life, which is the best in class for Windows handhelds, boasting a massive 80-watt-hour battery built into it. The X also has 24GB of RAM, making it more future-proof, and I believe it does make a difference in certain games for performance. The X is also more ergonomic than the ROG Ally original, but in return, the handheld is noticeably thicker and heavier. The X also solves the major issue with the SD card slot failing and the joysticks feeling too loose. So this handheld is right for you if you want to buy the best of the best that's available right now. However, keep in mind that the chipset inside of it will likely be outdated in the near future, so keep an eye on this one to go on sale. But that's going to do it for today's video. Needless to say, this was my most ambitious video I've made yet, covering 10 different handhelds. So I hope that this video helped you figure out which handheld device is right for you, whether you were buying one for yourself or for someone else. Make sure, if you haven't yet, to check the description for all the handheld links and accessories that you could possibly ever need. And if you are still stuck deciding or have any questions, I would be happy to answer your questions down in the comments section, or better yet, check out some of my dedicated reviews on my channel. But if you found this video informative, leave a like and subscribe for more tech and handheld device reviews. Also, you might as well hit that little bell to be the first to know when my next video comes out. This has been KillerCam1020. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Peace.